Moving on from symbolism to themes, it can be seen that the first key theme really is mystery and secrecy. And that theme is established right from the beginning. We have a foreshadowing of later events when we hear about Arthur Kipps's traumatic earlier life and his need to find some sort of happiness somewhere, remarry and settle down amongst peace. And so that sets up the first mystery in the novel. But it's only when he starts to retell his story that the mystery is built up slowly by Susan Hill. It starts, first of all, with Mr. Bentley's reluctance to explain in any detail about the Drablow estate. We then have Mr. Jerome's fear when Kipps explains what he saw in the graveyard at Crythick Gifford. We also have the reluctance of the people in the village or anyone Kipps meets to really explain what's going on or changing the subject. They just appear rude to him. And again, the reader here, in this theme, sees a dramatic irony. They can see Kipps is walking into trouble. The tension is building up. We don't know what that trouble is. And slowly but surely, things are revealed. The mystery comes out through the events of the book. The theme even persists to the end, where Kipps, on the verge of exhaustion, on the verge of falling into a fever, finally finds out the truth about what happens when the woman in black appears. So from beginning to end, everything is shrouded in mystery, even the outcome, although we have a really, really great warning when Mr. Daly tells about how he even lost his own son to the curse. Linked to the theme of mystery and secrecy is isolation. This is linked to places such as Monk's Peace right at the beginning, where we have Arthur as an isolated individual and somewhat apart from his second family. He describes them as if they're characters in the book rather than actually interacting with them. And actually, when he's asked to interact with them and tell the ghost story, he has to push himself apart. He pushes himself apart because the memories are too much for him. The trauma of what's happened before, we can only really realise this when we read the whole book, but the trauma of what's happened before forces Arthur out of his family home at a very, very personal time of year, Christmas. So it's quite clear that isolation for Arthur is more than just feeling alone for himself or being alone on Ilmarsh House, it's to do with his loneliness in terms of losing his first wife and child in such a traumatic way. As the story develops, of course, the isolation becomes clearer because he's actually literally on his own and he literally suffers all of these things. Even when Spider appears, it's his reactions to what's going on and then the dog's reactions to what's going on makes him feel even more lonely. And at one point, of course, he feels even more vulnerable as Susan Hill uses the device of the dog running out into the marsh and leaving him alone to hear the noises again that come in on the wind. As the novel goes on, Kipps's isolation and loneliness becomes more and more apparent, and it also links more and more and more to the isolation and loneliness that Jeanette Humphrey felt when she lost her son. So that in the end, the two isolated figures, Jeanette Humphrey or the woman in black, and Arthur Kipps, share the same horrific experiences, yet they don't share the same feelings. So that even though Kipps is isolated in many ways, he doesn't fall into the despair that Jeanette Humphrey does and the evil that comes with it.